Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of the Real Advice Podcast. I am really excited to welcome this week's guest to the show. He is a California native, previously worked in real estate finance and mortgage prior to moving into the real estate brokerage space. In the real estate industry, he's well known for his branding and marketing, ancillary services, and team building, among other things. So we've got a ton to unpack today. So we'll just hop right in. Please join me in welcoming Sergio Gonzalez.
Hey, how's it going, Katie?
It is going well, man. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you so much for having me on. Super excited. Been watching you for quite a bit of time, and all the amazing things you've been doing. So super pumped.
Awesome, man. I appreciate that, and I'm excited we get to dig in a little bit today. So for someone that may not know you,
Sure.
Give us your, elevator pitch. No, give us, kind of your background, how you got into real estate and kind of where you got to where you are today.
Sure. So I got into the real estate industry back in 2001, coming out of the film industry, and became a loan officer for a short period of time, then became a wholesale rep, which was in mortgage lending. And then during the crash, I opened up my own mortgage company. Became a broker banker, kind of thrived and rode that wave all the way through 2011. And the Dodd-Frank Act kind of came in and started squeezing out all the smaller bankers, and then made the switch into sales back in 2011, and kind of been on that side since then. So it's been a wild ride, having both sides of that experience. And now we got into escrow about 3 years ago. And so that's being added to that experience. And we just got approved for title insurance underwriting. So now we're bringing that component in. And then the last thing we started about 2 years ago was a property management. So we're now really becoming more of a home services company, which is kind of like my big vision. My dream is to be more of a home services company than just a brokerage.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, and you really now, like, you're kind of coming full circle to have all of the, different components of real estate. So that's awesome.
Yeah, no. And as agents, right, we're supposed to be knowledgeable in all these different arenas, because we have to be able to articulate that to the sellers, to the buyers. Whenever there's problems and issues that arise, you have to know, how to explain it and what's happening, where are the delays, where are the fires, how are you going to put them out, what does it mean, why are they asking for these things, and also to maintain those relationships on the other side, whether you're the listing agent, buyer's agent, being able to be the calm in the storm.
I mean, at this point, you probably know too much. You're like, well, this is happening here, and this is happening here, and
yeah, no, for sure. And I think that was the misnomer coming from the mortgage side, right? Because we're always putting out fires. The buyer bought something when they weren't supposed to. The appraisal came in short when it wasn't supposed to. The title issue, there's a issue with the title and the deed transfers and whatnot. You got to deal with that, and the rates went up, and now the rate lock are like, there's so many fires that happen with loans, because that's where majority of the problems happen, that you're the one always, like, quote unquote, saving the deal. Right. And I was like, agents don't know shit and they're dumb. And
then you become one.
And then I became one, and I was like, shit, getting business is really hard. Right.
Yeah.
Like, having to earn and build and all the different hats that you have to wear, like, super mad props and respect to all the agents. Right. And now having become one is like super respect of all the things that I've learned, but also the bridge that I've been able to build between having that experience and also how that transpired into at the listing presentation, right? What's part of my unique value proposition coming from that side of when the deal goes sideways, I've seen enough, I've experienced enough, right? And so I think that's really helped. And at the same time, dealing with buyers, especially in today's market where there's 12, 15 offers, like, how do I make them feel confident in the mortgage process? Because you're essentially asking them to remove their loan contingency up front, and inspections and this and that up front, just to get their offer accepted.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've now obviously been in real estate selling real estate and growing your team and all that over the past, what now, 10 plus years, right? You said 2011.
Yeah, so, yeah, I started my team in 2017. So, I was
Okay.
solo for quite some time.
So, I guess that's probably two conversations or two questions, but like kind of what does your lead generation look like now? And I guess where I'd rather start is kind of like, what did it look like when you first got in? Because you're like, oh yeah, selling homes is
Right.
easy. I've been in the real estate business for a while, and then you get into it.
Yeah.
Like, what did your pillars of, lead pillars kind of look like then?
Right. So like when I was in wholesale lending, it was all B2B, business to business, right? Wholesale lending to loan officers. So it was a lot of quote unquote door knocking, right? You'd walk into the office, hey, who's the manager, who's the sales manager, who's the processor? I'd love to do a presentation for the office. So it's a lot of cold calling, direct door to door. So when I transitioned into real estate sales, I was like, okay, well, I know door to door type of, marketing and building rapport like instantly on the spot. Like that's the direction that I was going to go in because I was scared of the phone. I didn't know what to say on the phone. I was like, well, if they just saw me, if I could just see them in person, like I could close. So the FISBOs, I'd go to the door. Expireds, I go to the door. Market updates, I'm at the door until, I got my first listing. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to crush it at open houses because they're all coming to me. It's face to face. I know I can convert in person. It took me like a few years before I was like brave enough to get on the phone and like just cold call people. And now it's, kind of second nature, but it took definitely some time to overcome the, mental block that I had about the phone.
That's kind of crazy. I mean, I don't love being on the phone either, but like that's
Yeah.
kind of crazy that like you're like, oh no, I'm good door knocking and going to someone's house that I've never met before, but like picking up the phone and talking to them was something
Yeah.
that gave you pause or made you a little nervous. Cause like, door knocking is also nerve wracking, because it's like, okay, you're knocking on a FISBO or an expired's door and
Yeah.
they answer it. Then you're like, ah, shit, you answered.
Yeah.
Hi, do you want to sell your house? Like, what are we doing
Yeah.
here?
I think I was more worried about what they would say to me that I was
Yeah.
like, versus like what I was going to say in person. Like I always felt it was easier for them to hang up on me on the phone than it was to slam the door in my face, right? Because it's really hard for people to be really mean, right?
Yeah.
They'll just say, no, I'm sorry, I'm good, or,
Yeah.
whatever the case. But on the phone, they're like, bye.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, that's like heartbreaking. Like I didn't even get to get my spiel off, right? So
Yeah. So did you build your business then on like door knocking and expireds and open houses? Was that kind of the basis?
yeah, pretty much that's kind of how I started. And then once I, got traction doing that, then I started crushing it at open houses. And that was setting up basically all my future sellers because all the sellers would come to you.
Yeah.
And then I set up my open houses like listing presentations. So my listing presentations were at the open house. I future paced that experience a year, 2 years out before they would ever call me. So they would call me, right? The just listed, the come list me calls.
Yeah.
They already experienced what I was going to do to market their house, how I treat the buyers that come through, the market intelligence that I would be providing to the buyers, to the sellers. They would listen to see how I interact with people, how I greet people, how I follow people, the things that I say that sell not only the house but the community. And they're like, man, that's the guy that I want selling my house if I'm selling.
Yeah. Well, and so I don't know if you do them now because of like with everything that's happened over the past few years and everything, but
Yeah.
like just being in California. But
Yeah.
I know previous to that, like your open houses were like big events, right?
Yeah, they were super. Yeah, they were super mega events. We'd have catered sushi. We'd have brunches. We'd have mimosas. We'd have tacos and beer. They were always a big part of our client experience. And yeah, it was devastating during COVID. We're just starting to pull out of like I think this weekend was probably the first weekend I saw the most open house signs out.
Yeah.
So our business definitely took a hit. I never had to buy online leads. I never had to do Google PPC. I never had to do any of those things because we were generating 10 to 12 buyer leads or future seller leads every single weekend. every
Yeah.
single weekend times 4, right? That's like 40, 50 leads a month that were like bottom of the funnel, maybe middle to bottom of the funnel,
Yeah.
ready to go, that we were just crushing. So we had to quickly pivot and figure out the PPC game, the online game. And, that was a steep learning curve for us because we never had to do it. So I think that was the big takeaway going through COVID was you got to have a few different pillars firing at high levels in the event that one literally comes to a halt, like
Yeah.
literally, like that's against the law now. You're right. It's against the law. And then throw in like, your political stance on that, whether you should be going to people's doors, whether you wear a mask or you don't wear a mask. Like there's all kinds of social awareness that we had to navigate through. Like, man, if we throw the pumpkin patch event, are people going to think we're like crazy, that we don't care, or we're not, following guidelines? Like there was just so much social awareness that we were trying to navigate through.
Yeah. I mean, we had the same, like, I mean, obviously being in Texas, it's a little bit different than being in California, but like, I mean, we had the same thought. So like we did virtual events in 2020, 2021, we started to kind of come back, but like this year, like we're doing them all again in person. And like, we just, this past weekend had our crawfish boil and we like did a little debrief, post-event debrief at our team meeting this week. And we were just like, it's so great to be back, cause it's like for a lot of the clients, like, maybe we did a lunch or did a coffee date or whatever, but like just seeing everyone like, at the same place, it's been a while. So it's exciting.
I mean, we just started door knocking again, like 3 weeks ago, and people were like, "Oh, we haven't seen your signs out in a while. We haven't seen you guys in a while." And we're like, "Yeah, because there's been no open houses."
Yeah.
But we sold this house and we sold that house and we sold this house. They're like, "Oh, okay, good. We're excited to see you guys soon." And so it was definitely noticed, not obviously from our side as people working in the business, but also the consumer, right? The perception is like, are you guys still here? Are you out of business? Like what's going on?
Well, and so when you guys go door knock, you're door knocking for open houses, you're door knocking to say hello. Like what are you
a lot of it is around the market intelligence, right? Like what's happening in the market month over month, quarter over quarter, where buyers are coming from, what are the options for you as a seller in today's market. So it's a lot of conversation around that. And then sometimes it's like today's Taco Tuesday for us. We have it here at the office, second Tuesday of every month. And we invite all the neighbors.
Nice.
And so it's a conversation around that. We're launching ice cream in the park every Friday, not every Friday, the specific Friday of the month. I can't remember what the dates are. We're going to be door knocking around that. So just to have belly to belly conversations, because we haven't had them come into the open houses yet.
Yep.
Like our listing in the farm is coming up next month. It's going to literally be the first open house that we're finally going to get the fish to come back to us.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I mean, whether it's door knocking on a farm or sending out mailers in a farm, or even just calling your past clients in Sphere, like I really enjoy calling people to invite them to a party, and that's like, the pumpkin patch or
it's so much easier to invite people to a party than like, "Hey, Katie, I'm calling, have you had any thoughts of selling this year? Do you know anybody thinking of buying this year?" Type of deal. So I think it's anytime we can put on an event or, invite them to something is really cool.
Yeah, no, I'm a fan of that as well. What would be, so you seem to have tried it all, right? As far as doing, like you said, Google PPC, FSBOs, door knocking, expireds, open houses, now you've obviously built a large brand and name for yourself and have brand recognition, but like for a new agent just starting out, like what would be a piece of advice for them as far as like the marketing for their, new business?
Yeah, I think you first have to decide whether you are in a sweat equity mode or you're in a check equity mode, right? So if you're if you're a newly licensed agent and your significant other might have the wherewithal to support you in this new venture, then you can just start writing checks. Hey, I need the CRM. I need a couple of new mailers sent. I need a designer to get going. I want to start paying for some online leads. Like boom, like you're up and going. But not every new agent starts like that. Like
Yeah.
I didn't start like that. It was like boots on the ground. You got zero, go get something.
Yeah.
Anything you need to go kill stuff, right? So
Yeah.
that was how I started, was sweat equity. So I had to, print the flyers on an 8.5 by 11 paper sheet, copier paper, until I could afford to move up to a little bit nicer paper.
Yeah.
So you have to decide whether you're in a check equity mode, sweat equity mode, and then start learning and mastering some skills for the sweat equity lead gen,
Yeah.
type of things. And it's not an endless endless list of ways to generate business in this business. It's a very finite. It's probably less than 15 when you think about it. There's not that many. So you just got to find ones that you feel are going to be the path of least resistance, for you, given your natural skill set or your background, right? And maybe your connections that you might have. You really have to take some time and just, okay, I think if naturally, like you and your family belong to a country club, then go spend more time there,
Yeah.
develop some relationships there, right? And for some people, maybe that's not, they're not in that position. Maybe it's like you just move to an area. You need to start off with maybe some expires and some FISBOs, and go donate, join a club, donate some time and some talent.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think that most people have to do the sweat equity, and that's the hard one, right? I mean, and not that writing checks for things and putting money into things is going to give you immediate business, but
right, exactly.
Putting in that work is definitely difficult, because it's a numbers game, and it takes a lot of work to get, the results, for sure.
I mean, I think ultimately within like 6 months of me becoming licensed and even having the experience that I did, like I signed up for coaching because I was like, I don't know what to say, right? I knew what to say business to business, but I didn't know what to say business to consumer.
Yeah.
Right. I never did a listing presentation. I never called expires. I never called FISBOs. I was like listening to Mike Ferry, tapes. And then, I had a visitor come from Tom Ferry's office, for the summit. And I was like, oh, I think that's what I need. And boom. And that's kind of all I focused on, was like what to say, how to say it, when to say it, why to say it. Because I figured out really quickly, like that's more important than almost anything else. Doesn't matter the marketing, doesn't matter, the fancy this, the fancy that. It was all around, can you build rapport with people with different personalities from different backgrounds, from different demographics, and different stances, and how they see the world? Can you build rapport with people like that? Because what I have found, I was like, man, that agent got that listing, and I'm like, his marketing sucks. Like, the guy dresses like this, or the pictures look like crap, and how did he get this listing? It's because he knew how to do that, right? He knew what to say, how to say it, when to say it, that made them feel comfortable and confident that he's the right agent.
Yeah. Kudos to you for starting coaching so early in your career. I was like, a couple years in before we pulled the trigger on coaching. And I mean, it's definitely been helpful. I think it shortens the learning curve too, right?
Yeah.
Like not only around scripting, but around marketing and around, different, lead pillars and just things like that. It's like, if you can continue to shorten that learning curve on everything that you do, you just find more success that much faster.
Yep. So, it's the people you surround yourself with, 100%.
Yeah. One of the things that you had mentioned earlier too was like the client events, right? So obviously the open houses are big. You're doing events at your office as well. What are some like fun events that you've done in the past that you just enjoy doing every year or on a regular basis?
Yeah, a lot of it, again, learning from my friends like you, right? Like what are other people doing? Why reinvent the wheel? So I think our first event was something around Halloween, right? The pumpkin patch. And how to make that an event. So getting the pumpkins there, what's the checklist of all the things that we need there? And then we would debrief after the event, like how could we have made this event more successful next year? What did we miss? What would be cooler? What are my other friends doing in their events that we can just add? So just making it a 1% improvement on these events every single year that make it a little bit more memorable
Yeah.
is key. And then so that was the first event. Second event was around Christmas and having Santa. So we had sweets with Santa and gave away, pies. Shout out to Glenda Baker. She basically gave me that checklist, right? So it was
Yeah.
just rip off and duplicate, but putting my brand on it, my spiel on it, and how we would do it, not necessarily exactly the way so and so did it or anybody else. It was, you knew it was a signature SG event based on the experience that we were giving to people. So
Yeah, 100%. I like that. I always like, when I see an idea that I like or a content idea or whatever, like writing down just the idea, not like their script or whatever. Cause it's like,
mhm.
I need to put my words and my thoughts into this. And
Right.
same with events, right? Like, oh, I saw, Sergio did this, like, we could do that, but here's
Mhm.
our spin on it. So,
Yep.
I certainly love that. And there's definitely a lot of people, the communities that we, are in that, throw some pretty badass
Right.
events. So
I
I
mean,
always,
when you look at it, right, you look at the movie industry, the storylines never change, right? There's
yeah,
always the guy who wants to do this, but, then he falls in love and, it's always the same, right?
yeah,
Same. It's the same thing with real estate marketing and things like that. There really isn't something new. It's just, are you going to put your touch on it that says, hey, oh, that's Katie's team. Oh, that's a Sergio listing,
yeah,
right? They'll know if you're just consistent and continuing to elevate that experience and what people expect to see. You can't go back. I always tell people, once you set the bar, you can't go back, right? So you can't do nice pictures one time. You can't do a sexy video one time. You can't do a brochure once, nice one time. Like if that's
yeah,
the bar, stick to the bar. And
yeah,
sometimes that's painful because you're like, you set it really high for yourself and you're like, shit, I don't know if I can commit to this
yeah,
all the time. Well, then, don't give the consumer set expectations and then not deliver. I think that's a bad thing.
yeah. No, that's huge. Um, that is so huge. If you weren't a real estate agent, what would you be doing?
If I wasn't a real estate agent, I think I'm a serial entrepreneur. One thing I've kind of learned, and I love marketing. Like I love making things look beautiful, sexy, different. I'm like really creative in that way, and I think I pulled that from being in the film industry
Yeah,
initially. So like even between that, leaving the mortgage side of it and entering into real estate, I had created a marketing firm back in 2000. This was like in 2000, like 12ish around there, where we were doing listing videos with like the first drones and all the little different camera techniques that you see today that are like super common and they're kind of expected now. It was like, wow, how did they do that? That's when I was doing it. That's what I was doing for agents back then, and we were charging $5,000 a video. I think my most expensive video I did was for the launch of the Oppenheim group over at Selling Sunset, right? For the launch of their group, and that was like, you know, a lot of money. Like
we don't need to get into
yeah, yeah,
specifics, but I can imagine. I can imagine.
right.
I see the
So
properties they sell.
right. So, some of that footage is still used in their intro.
Yeah,
So like that's the level of marketing that I really love doing and coming up with. Like I think I would probably, and I had to make a decision in that point, like, hey, this marketing company is really taking off, but my real estate is now taking off. Like, what do I want to do? Because I can't continue to really do
yeah,
both at a very high level. And I was like, okay, which one is going to make me more money in the long run? Which one's going to be, I think, more valuable in the long run? And I chose real estate. And I just brought that entire team into my real estate company. And I think that's what made our company stand out with branding and marketing. And if people, you bring up our name, like that's what they're going to mention is like, oh my God, their marketing is on point. Their brand is like amazing.
yeah.
And I think that's what it is.
I always think like very like clean, sleek, like
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. Um, on the marketing front and the video and stuff like that, like obviously now you're mentioning like drones and things like that. Like I mean that's like pretty standard, right? For
Yeah.
like a listing
Yeah.
video, like it's generally going to have some drone shots of like
Yep.
either the community or the
Yep.
house zooming into it or out of it or whatever,
Mhm.
right? What do you feel like, over the past 5-10 years, like have y'all done to like stay kind of, relevant and remain like kind of cutting edge? Because like we talk about this a lot with like digital, video marketing, all that. Like,
Mhm.
5 years ago, 5 years ago for sure, like you could go like Facebook Live at a
Yeah.
listing and it would get
Yeah.
thousands of views,
Yeah.
right? Now, if you go Facebook Live, like my mom watches it, your mom watches it, and that's it, right? Like
Yeah.
video's not the same as it
Yeah.
was. So what have you done over the years to like remain like relevant and,
Yeah, I think it's doing stuff like this, that is not necessarily either like specific to Katie's new listing. It's Katie as an entrepreneur, Katie as a leader, Katie as a influencer in the community, Katie as a supporter of all things, Texas. Um, that I think people will gravitate more towards than your new listing or
yeah,
what you need to be doing to get ready to sell your house, right? It's like Katie's always like, she knows everybody. She's like, and she's really super knowledgeable and she's super fun, and look at her doing this podcast, and I think that's what is gravitating people, to really, I think what the marketing is doing now is the audience used to be, where's my camera? It used to be like, right? It used to be like this big. There you go. It used to be
yeah,
like this big. Now with the marketing that we're doing, like podcasts, like it's really like
yeah,
this. And it's going to, that vibe is going to attract your tribe, right? So the people that don't like to have, don't care what I have to say. They don't like seeing me. They don't like hearing my voice. They don't like the topics I'm talking about. Like, those people are never going to hire me,
yeah,
right? But the people that, oh, there's Sergio again. Oh, there he is again interviewing so and so. Oh,
yeah,
there, like this guy's like working so hard. Like I remember when I was his age and I used to, grind it out and like I'm going to hire him.
yeah,
And those are the people that hire us, right? Those are the people like that see us on the streets or see us here and see us there. Like, you guys just outwork everybody, and like, good for you. Keep it going. And I'm like, fuck, somebody's watching. Shit. So
yeah.
I think the vibe that you put out with this type of marketing is the tribe that you're going to attract. And ultimately those are your people. And you got to just keep loving on them and delivering more of what that is.
Yeah. I mean, and I think the you saying like, people are watching or people are seeing it. It's the same thing like with your open houses and stuff like that, right? Like the thing that you kept saying
Mhm.
is like your potential sellers or sellers down the road, future sellers,
Mhm.
things like that. Like, so when you have people that are coming into open houses, and it's just the neighbor that's popping in, like a lot of
Mhm.
agents get annoyed with that. Like those are potential sellers.
Oh yeah.
So
So like,
people are
yeah,
always
we
looking.
we treat those neighbors like gold walking through that door.
Yeah.
So like, I have swag bags just for neighbors when they come in. The buyers don't get any, only the neighbors.
You've
So
got
a
to
lot
buy a
of times,
house to
yeah,
get a swag bag.
yeah, exactly. Through me, not through your, another agent. So, so when a neighbor comes in, a lot of times they feel bad. They feel, oh, I'm just a neighbor. I'm like, no, 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 no. Come on in. I got something for you. What do you mean? Oh yeah. Here's a coffee mug. Here's a pen. Here's this, here's that. Oh my gosh. And they walk out and they're like, holy shit, that was awesome. Right.
Yeah.
Guaranteed they walk into the next open house down the street and it's like they get ignored. No one talks
Yeah.
to them, oh, go
Look
ahead,
around, look
look around.
around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Right. Like, holy shit. And in their mind, they're thinking, oh my God, this agent just lets anybody walk in the house. Don't know their name. Trust that what they say is true. How do they know I didn't go steal something?
Yeah.
Or, I go into places I'm not supposed to be going. Like, all of those little details, I think people pay attention to.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So the other thing you said was like, that you feel like you're an entrepreneur and, continue to do things. And so one thing we haven't really touched on that we talked a lot about in Orlando last month when we saw each other was like the ancillary services and kind of starting other businesses and things like that. So when you got into real estate, did you think that you we're just going to sell homes? Or did you think that you were like, okay, I'm going to build this empire? Or has that kind of grown as you've grown in the industry?
Yeah, I think it's grown. I mean, like when I started my mortgage company, because when I was a wholesale rep and I would witness how mortgage companies were grown and how they would recruit and what, how these became little, branches and things like that. I was like, wow, that's what I want to have one of these days. And I just watched how it was happening. And little by little, I started, going in that direction. I was licensed in 13 states. I had, 4 processors and 2 underwriters and, 25 different loan officers in different states. And so I was on my way there, and, circumstances with the laws changing and regulations changing and all that other stuff and timing, it just didn't pan out. So the same type of, thing in real estate, hey, I want to build something that maybe I grow a team, maybe I launch the brokerage. And then as I'm witnessing and watching again, like how other companies are thriving and growing, and bringing value, it's, hey, I have a property management company, I have an escrow company, I have a title company, and all these other different ancillaries to really be able to sustain and grow, at scale.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Cool. What advice would you give to an agent, say if they've been in the business for maybe 3 to 5 years and they've kind of plateaued, to like take them to that next level?
I think usually why agents plateau, including myself, right? Because you're every agent at certain levels, you'll plateau, like you just can't break through. And I think it has a lot to do with some of the operational things that you have is that you're still holding on to, right? I was just reading the book Traction, right? The EOS system, type of stuff. And today's chapter was really about, you're holding on to the vines of all the things that you as a solo agent, or maybe even as a little team, that you're responsible for, that you're holding on to, that you can't grasp anything else because you're still tied to so many things, willingly or unwillingly, right? Like for myself, as an example, I'm the one that knows Follow Up Boss. I'm the one that knows Ylopo. I'm the one that knows the scripts. I'm the one that knows marketing and branding. I'm the one that knows the data. I'm the one that does the training, right? Like how, of course I'm plateaued, right? Until I start delegating out and elevating some of the other people either on the team, or I fill a seat with people that can either learn those skills or develop those skills or me be able to transfer those skills. I am where I am, right? Because of the choices and things that I'm either aware of or not aware of. But I think that's what, the community that we're a part of allows us to like get an outside perspective to say, well, of course, that's why you're not growing. It's because you're still doing this and you're still doing that. And, and as a solo agent, or even a 3-year, 4-year agent, and you don't even have an assistant yet.
Yeah.
Right. And those are your vines, because you're still doing all the marketing and all these things. So I think and it's a scary transition each time. Right.
Yeah.
Because you're just adding more responsibility and more weight on your shoulders, that you're like, holy shit, I'm now responsible for 5 people, 6 people. Right. The first one is always a scary one, but then you're responsible for 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And you're like, shit, if I don't go make it rain, these people don't eat. Yeah. Right. So.
No, I agree with you there. I also feel like you're coming at me with, this advice you've got. I'm like, come on, man. Like, let's not do this on the podcast. Like, I know I shouldn't be doing all of those things. No. Cool. Well, I'm going to hit you with one last question. Mm-hmm. I hope I don't stump you. Okay. Don't get nervous. Okay. If it were your last meal on earth, Sergio, what would you be eating?
If it was my last meal on earth, it would definitely be Mexican food. Guacamole and chips, and
the staple of any,
Yeah, I got to go down with some nice spicy guacamole, 100%.
Or is what would be after that? Or are you just going to fill up so much on chips that
you said that's one thing? So that's
like the last meal though. So like, I mean,
okay. So guacamole,
could be like an 8-hour meal,
Yeah. Okay. All right. So guacamole and chips, some tacos, And then for some dessert, it would be cheesecake. I'm a
Okay.
cheesecake.
Do you do just like
Lover.
traditional New York style? Like just
That's my favorite. They make cheesecakes in various ways. Like some are more like cheesecake based, yogurt based. Some are more firm. Some are more softer. Some come with fruit. Some don't. Um, I eat my cheesecake in a very specific way because I enjoy it that way. So I would love to end it with some cheesecake, and
okay.
then maybe a cup of coffee at the end because that's
Yeah.
always like a nice finishing touch.
Yeah. Just top it all off with that coffee. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you very much and thank you for your time. I've got a
Yeah,
ton of notes and gems, so I appreciate all of your knowledge and your willingness to share.
of
Can't wait
course.
to see you soon, hopefully in Dallas or somewhere else. But
Yeah.
I wish you
All right,
all the
next time
success
we're
in the
gonna
world,
be
man.
reversing this, by the way, too, because
Dude,
I know you got a lot of nuggets and just awesome stuff to share.
sounds good, man. I appreciate you. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, see ya.